Hello, Black Comic Lords family. This is your one and only Angel, A for Amazing. And today is so special, so real. It's real to real, okay? Today I have one of the most amazing, legendary Hollywood elites with me to talk today for us to go over some things, some stories to tell, some interesting subjects, theater, Hollywood, all the things. I have the one, the only, Carl Lumbly. Welcome, Carl.
How are you?
I am doing great. How are you doing, Carl?
I'm doing well, very, very well. I have no real cause for complaint.
Okay, so we're going to go into some of the highlights of your career. We have some what really brings us here, and for all of us at Black Comic Lords, the stories that we tell are very important, and Isaiah Bradley was a hidden figure. Truth, Red, White, and Black was the story of a super soldier that was treated very different than Steve Rogers. So um can you tell us a little bit about accepting this role? Like what happened? How was that presented to you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Um, the role came to me the way most roles come. It was in the form of an audition, only because it came from the Marvel world. They did not have the name of the character on it. There was a different name, like John Williams. But the material was Isaiah's story, and it opened and broke and expanded my heart because I didn't know about his story. I didn't know about his place in the comic books. I was not allowed to read comic books when I was coming up, and when I got into the comic book world, while I appreciated it, there was no way to catch up. So this character was unknown to me. And when I read the material and was as touched by it as I was, and found as many things in it that related to things I knew about in history, most particularly the Tuskegee experiments. I once did a play called Miss Evers' Boys, in which I played one of the farmers who had syphilis and trusted in his government, and ended up living with syphilis and dying with syphilis, because long after the cure, the government wanted to see what would happen. And so it had this
Right.
pool of black people it didn't care about, experimented on them, never told them what was going on until that experiment was exposed. So it was not unlike the super soldier, super serum experiment, these 300 black soldiers who were literally brought in, experimented on. Some of them died, many of them died, Isaiah being the only survivor. And,
Right.
um, and that was what caught me about it, that he was a survivor and that he represented, in my view, what black people in this country and others have had to do constantly, which is survive, thrive as best as possible, and keep an eye out, because those forces that would view us as disposable are very, very powerful and have a vested interest in keeping the truth of who we are hidden, because it's, even to them, it's not right to do what they did to a human being. So the only possible answer is that that individual cannot be as fully human as they are.
Right.
That's what I think Isaiah was about. I think Isaiah was heroic in that when the time came for a mission and Steve Rogers' character was unavailable to do the mission because he was stuck somewhere in the Pacific, Isaiah, who was told that it was a suicide mission, agreed to do it and went and did it, accomplished the mission, blew up the enemy camp, and was captured. And when he was returned, rescued and returned, his government incarcerated him, accused him of having stolen the uniform, and
Right.
and incarcerated him so that they could study him because the serum had killed everyone else and it didn't kill him. So
Right.
for those 30 years, he was experimented on, and when he was finally released, escaped, and I'm not sure which is most applicable, he wanted to hide. He wanted to remove himself from further scrutiny, to try and heal himself, and to raise his grandchildren, his grandson, to have a contact with family that had been denied him, and to impart the knowledge and the wisdom that he had gained in surviving to this point. So that's where it picked up for me when I was first cast. When I was first cast, it was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And that's where I met Isaiah, who I admire and love as much as those men and women that I knew who were as courageous and did things that were just as brave and just as unlikely and seemingly impossible, but but they did it and survived.
Absolutely. One of the pivotal moments is for the movie in the MCU, um, when Isaiah is brought into the museum and he's finally added. Now the world thinks he's dead, but um, the new Captain America, which was previously Falcon, made sure that he was honored. And this just speaks to the elite talent that we have. That moment when he realizes that finally his government, his country that turned their back on him is finally acknowledging his contribution to the country and keeping it safe. And you can see all the emotions from the anger to the awe of walking in and like finally some acknowledgement. And I've been told by many people that that just meant everything to them, because in cinema it gives us permissions, and out in the world for men are not supposed to show any emotion, and you're able to reflect that it's not a taboo. It's meant for us as humans to be able to have feelings, show it, and acknowledge it. And I'm just floored that your brilliance is shows through the screen, and we're all very grateful for everything that you do for us in the community. Absolutely pivotal, everything.
Well, I think of myself as a really shiny surface in that I'm reflecting the community out to the greater community. I think there's nothing in me that didn't come from the community and from my experience growing up. I credit my parents who were far stronger, braver, more capable, more intelligent, had greater integrity than I could imagine anyone having. And they dealt with things that I couldn't imagine doing, all because of their efforts. I'm here. And as I made my journey through the world, there were all sorts of people of all colors, but I'm speaking specifically of those people who share that common story that began with the diaspora. And those of us who arrived in this hemisphere have, there's something that we shared. And and many, 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 many examples. Not simply the ones you hear about, but examples of bravery and courage and sacrifice and incredible intelligence and ingenuity and character and integrity. Those things exist, and in my view, because I know them, that's what I like to reflect onto whatever characters that I get to do. So I thank the community.
So another character that is so beloved, I wanted to bring up is on the DC side. We talked a little bit about Marvel, but
Mm.
on the DC side, we
Oh, I
had
know. Yes, yes,
Martian the Manhunter.
yes.
And with this character, and it's been a lot of a few years, so you've captured several generations with this voiceover. And just to share with you, my daughter at 27, she loves your voice. Like, she hears your voice, you are this character. This is a such beloved character in the DC universe. Can you tell us a little bit about how this came across and you accepted? What was that story?
Well, this was my first big voiceover job, and the woman who heard me or saw me act and felt that I should consider voiceover is a wonderful, wonderful, incredible director named Andrea Romano. And she did the Justice League among many others, countless numbers. She's a superhero in this world that Jean Jones lives in. So she gave me the script, told me that the character was a Martian, that he was hundreds or thousands of years old, that he had been marooned on Mars after Mars was destroyed, that he was the last of his kind, and that he came to Earth and found purpose. So that that was how it came to me, and she told me to do what I felt in trying to voice him and trying to bring him to life. And so that's what I did in the audition. I thought, I know perhaps how difficult it it has been in many ways to be black in this world, but unbelievably difficult to be green. And so I thought he had no one. You talk about a community. He had
Right, right.
he had no one. So he came to the earth, found these earthlings, and began to have a sense, not initially of community, but that he had discovered beings that he didn't know exist in a world he had no idea about, but felt that he could be of some use in this world, that he had capabilities. Clearly, on this world, not everyone can discorporate and walk through walls. Very few people know they have the ability to read minds. And he could fly and had unbelievable strength and gifts and powers that he could bring to help bring good. And
That's right.
he applied himself to that. And in so doing, he fell in league with the Justice League. And while he didn't understand, some of their infighting, he didn't understand how Superman and Batman could be so combative toward one another and claim greatness when neither of them could discorporate. But
Right.
it's not for him to judge. They were all trying to make it better for this world, and so that's what he that's what he falls into, and he stays calm because in some ways he has the kind of neutrality you have as an immigrant when you're just learning about how things work, and you have a
Right.
memory of a place where things were better, and so it's possible for things to be better. That's kind of what anchored John Jones for me. I don't know what made my mother and father think that they could leave Jamaica with limited education and come and make a way here in this country, in the America of the 1950s, with all of those challenges. But they felt they could, they did, and they triumphed. And so I think that was the stuff that I felt was also contained in Jean Jones.
Absolutely. And it's so reflective of real life, the character immigrating to Earth, because he himself didn't have community, and he was always the voice of reason between um Clark and Batman, who they were so opposites at everything.
Hmm.
And Clark Kent also being an immigrant, but he growing up on Earth, you know, was able to assimilate, as opposed to John, who he's already an adult.
Hmm.
So he has his own cultures and beliefs, and he's like, well, I can be the voice of reason here, and I can help.
I
And
also loved the fact that, John could shapeshift. So if
yes,
he had
yes,
wanted to, he could have made himself into the most popular kind of human being and perhaps had a very different life. But what was key and important about Jean was he was only going to be himself. Being Martian was not a, being anything else was not an option. And so he would be able to help as he could, as himself, even if he could shapeshift and had to do it for a reason. He always knew where home was. He always knew what to come back to. Again, I felt there were resonances, things that I could really relate to. I think when I got into this work, probably one of the biggest fears I had was of perhaps losing myself to desire for to be known, to be popular, or losing myself to the desire to have a lot of money, or losing myself in such a way that it didn't matter what I attached myself to as long as it gained me more notoriety. And
right,
I, I, I didn't want to do that. I kind of always wanted to feel like I knew where home was. And I think I've had a lot of fun and good fortune, and I've worked very hard. And I recognize myself, even with the scruffiness on my face. I recognize myself when I look in the mirror every morning. It's me, sounds like me,
yes,
looks like me, does the things that I do, believes in the things, many of the things that I believed in when I was young and coming up. I still hold many of the activities that brought me joy when I was young and coming up. I still do. And I was a mama's boy. And so what's key for me is love. I have been very, very well loved in my life. and I'm used to it. It's been good to me.
Yes.
And I have a lot of it, so I like to give it where I can, and I love seeing it in its existence. There's something pure about it, like cool water, and um, that means a lot to me in this work.
And it shows. And we as in the audience, that are consuming the talent and seeing, all the movies, TV shows, and theater. Um, we don't know what goes on in that personal life, and you highlighted the biggest thing, for true success is having a foundation of love, staying true to yourself, disciplining away from those temptations. And you're proof positive for everybody that are either stepping into the role or is in the roles now, to hold on to that foundation. And it's just awe inspiring to see what you've able to accomplish. And
Thank you.
we wanted to also, we can't forget to talk about Mantis. Like, this for me is where I recognized you for the first time, you know, in college. And me, I'm a nerd. And anybody that knows me, technology, any kind of advancements, and I look back at this show because at that time the concept of an exoskeleton was just a concept, and it's a real thing now. Like, anybody that is in the military or have military family, you can go down to the VA and see partial exoskeletons or whole body exos, and it's like, I remember when that was just on TV. um
Yeah.
so tell us about this experience, because this is a beloved character for a lot of us.
Um, well, all right. I will limit my commentary on this to the pilot.
Okay.
The pilot, the 2 hour movie that began all of it. The series, I felt we did the best we could, but I think we fell short of the promise of the pilot for any number of reasons. Um, it was way ahead of its time, but
Yes.
it was right on time as far as I was concerned. I thought this character, Miles Hawkins, was a brilliant idea. Sam Hamm and Sam Raimi, the two individuals who came up with this, because his superpower um, was based on his humanity. He was very, very, very bright and was able to use his mind and in technology. He was a nerd as well, as am I. Mama's boy and a nerd. I'm letting it all out. But he made his money and then wanted to make it better for his community. And at that time, crime, gang violence was ripping communities apart. And their notion, the idea that here was an individual who could have stayed behind his walled gate and lived in his mansion overlooking, the beautiful sea, but he wanted to make a difference. And so, in going about trying to do that and trying to be active in the community, he experienced an episode of violence. And it was that violence that put him in a wheelchair. And
Right.
it was violence perpetrated by the state. And in response to that, rather than becoming embittered, rather than feeling that something had been taken away from him. He still had his mind, he still had all of his abilities, and he still had his desire to make it better for the community. So, in developing the exoskeleton, that's what released his his superpowers. Clearly, he couldn't fly by himself. He had no fire coming out of his knuckles or anything. He could only come up with what his mind could develop. But as we now know, we use so little of our capacity, and he used every drop that he could access to come up with the exoskeleton, and also to come up with an idea based on his intention that perhaps those individuals in those gangs, just using that as a beginning, deserved, had to be stopped at what they were doing because they were harming the community, but they were still a part of the community. And that an
Right.
answer for stopping them had to fall short of killing them. And so he developed a paralytic drug that he could deliver through darts. I'm smiling because it was so much fun. Um, I'm highly suggestible, so it was wonderful to be on the set and to raise my hand and fire, and people would freeze, and then they would be collected by the police and not not put into body bags, but incarcerated, and then then the next thing that would have to be addressed is what takes place inside prisons. But his whole thought was that no one should be dying, and that there are plenty of
Right.
reasons why people would not be in their right mind, and that perhaps having someone who could stop them in their tracks when they were doing wrong and help them get to a place where they were alive to consider what they had done and maybe make different choices. That was the character. Now, where he went for his technology was he went back to the source. We know that there were incredible technological advances being done in Africa long before
Right.
anyone knew. Timbuktu existed as a place of incredible learning, and there are probably many pockets of incredible learning that we don't know about, ways of learning that we don't
That's
know
right.
about, things that involve technology, yes, but also spirit. And so I think that what he wanted was to arm his technology with the deepest spiritual understandings he could, and that's why he went to Africa and brought back two quote unquote assistants, but I think two colleagues that could help him design and move this idea out into the world. And that's what they did. And I was very, very proud of that pilot. I was very proud of the questions that it asked and the answers that it came up with. What took place was a very successful debut on a network that ordinarily, if it had been the second highest, most watched pilot, it would have probably moved into its serieshood, utilizing most of the concept and the characters, and just sort of slipped them over and carried them on. But in our case, the pilot was deconstructed. Individuals who felt either that they knew better for what would be successful, or that they could not conceive that the success was a fluke and wanted to make it look more like something familiar, something that made more sense. So the African
Right.
characters, the African colleagues went away. Many of the people of color went away, and as as I was reminded, well, you're still here, which was true, and I moved forward with what I felt was a less courageous concept being applied, and something that I would do the best with. But I never forgot what we achieved in the pilot.
That pilot, um, as I spoke to the exoskeleton, and as you were remembering your experience, I realize the idea of the darts and freezing people and stopping them in their tracks is absolutely something science is able to do today. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the irony and bringing this up and talking about it today as we see what's going out in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting what is picked up and made into a real usable viable product or tool, and others are kind of just not picked up, because the idea of authority, okay, you're committing a crime, let's stop you, it's something that absolutely can be done today with what we have as far as technology, but was never developed.
Right.
And it's frustrating to know that humanity as a whole has all these options, but they seem to choose violence over and over again,
Yeah,
over and over again.
I think even beyond that, I think that maybe we've all moved to a place where somehow lethality is praised and
Right,
prized in terms of the way we approach any problem.
right.
Now I know I have many biases. I don't like guns. It's not something I was raised with, not something I feel comfortable with. I think I've spent a lot of time pretending to like guns in my career.
Oh,
Um, and I accept that there are many people who do love them and who love the idea of shooting, and fine too. I have no problem with that. It's the idea of the intention. And so for me, non-lethal is that should be the only way you stop people. And
right.
I don't know if Miles Hawkins had it before I did, but certainly playing him,
Yeah.
I appreciated the ability to step inside that that kind of intention. I think there have been a number of characters that I've gotten the opportunity to do where I like the way they're going, and I'm happy to ride along.
That that is everything we're here for. Everything that we're here for. So I did pull up a few photos from, I think, Supergirl. And then I had this photo, you in the suit, but I wasn't sure where that was from. I was hoping you could
That's from
fill us in.
Alias.
That's from
That's
Alias.
from a show
Okay.
called Alias that I was on. That character's name is Marcus Dixon.
Okay.
Very,
Okay.
and um, not as very, 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 very by the book individual, very relatively quiet, not unlike the way I think I am, thoughtful, and again, intent on doing what was right in a world where he did not actually understand that he had been lied to about the world that he was in. So
I
it's
see.
yeah, it's that was Marcus.
Okay. Let's see. Now, the biggest part of our discussion, I think a lot of society has gotten away from the homegrown and raw of acting is actually theater. And you are one of the best of stage presence. Tell us about those experiences and what that meant to you.
Well, in in my opinion, there's nothing like it. I wouldn't be doing what I was doing, what I'm doing now, at any rate, if I hadn't started on stage. And I think doing it in a room uh, with an audience where it only happens once, where whatever
Right,
takes place, that character that they see that night or that matinee is really the only time that character exists. And he only, in my view, exists because he's created between the audience and his fellow
right,
players. And that moment, it's not going to be that way again. The matinee is always going to be somewhat different from the evening performance on the same day because the audience is different. And I think there's
right,
something, I guess, not only real time, but there's no way to hide. And
right,
and I like that. I started off in improvisation, and the rule was if somebody gives you on stage any piece of information, um, the answer was never no. It was always yes, and if you if you needed to um, embellish it or change the way in which things were going, yes, and I think that um, that makes for possibility. And on stage, it's necessary because when you're doing a play, it's important what your lines are, but what's critical is the way you listen. And you listen to everything. You listen to what is being said to you. You listen to what was said about you. You listen to what other people say to one another, much the same way you do in life. And I like the fact that in that moment you are a little community, you and your fellow players, and the audience. You have come together for a moment that can be quite magical, and it's, this the sum is greater than its parts. That's what I came up doing. That's all I thought I was going to be doing. That's all I wanted to do. When I moved to New York, I thought, this is it. This is it. And through a series of happy accidents, as it turns out, I ended up in Los Angeles. I ended up developing a career there, living there for quite a while, moved to San Francisco and did essentially the same thing, much more staged there than in LA. Had an opportunity to do stage in New York. There's something foundational about it. You can't get away from it. And it's, you know, if I didn't do this for a living, I would still be a reader. I was a library nerd forever.
me
Um,
too.
and um, and so I have a lot of joy in doing this work because I'm constantly discovering things I didn't know about other people, other worlds, other ways of living, and things about myself.
So, some of the questions that people have is how do you make sure that you stay I know there's improv, but how do you stay with the script? Like, because there's no do-overs, it's not like you can stop. For
Mhm.
you, what was that method like to stay on script as best as possible.
Well, there was no as best as possible. You stayed on script. Word perfect.
Right, right.
I don't believe in anything else. If I left a word out, since I didn't craft it, I've changed something that was created by someone else, and
Oh,
I've
okay.
and so that those ideas did not get to be fulfilled if I let down on my end. That's how I take great responsibility for being a part of something. And I think the only lead I can think of is what the writer wrote. And then because it is such a collaborative effort, there's what the director feels is important about what those words say. And then there's how I feel about those words and what my abilities are to make that come alive for myself. Then there's the contact and the movement with everyone else who is doing the same thing that you're doing with your character, with their character. And so that's why I say for me, it's joyful. I, um, I really love basketball. And if in a perfect world, I would have been a 6'8" power forward. I was hoping for 6'5", but 6'8" would have done it. That would have been the perfect thing. And what I loved about basketball is there's nothing that you do that is inconsequential. There are five of you, and you're all intent on doing the same thing when you're on offense, and the same thing when you're on defense. You're doing it
That's
your
right.
way. You're dealing with other individuals, but that's what guides it. And yes, it's about the win, but it's also about the way you play together. And then inside that, your individual skills means that when you're called upon to do something, you're able to do
Right.
it. But it's always in service of the bigger picture, and that's the
Right,
same
exactly.
thing in theater, and that's the same thing in film, and I I like that a lot.
So I'm just a little nosy though, but you said you love basketball. Do you have like a favorite team, favorite player? I'm just nosy. I'm picking now.
Um, my favorite player is Steph Curry, and
Ooh, yeah,
my favorite
that's good one.
my favorite team is still the Warriors. And
Oh wow,
as
yeah.
they go through all of the,
Yeah,
I'm right there with them, and
yeah,
of
yeah.
course I revel in them being on top. I revel in all of the championships they've won, but I take a lot of joy, and I'm very inspired by what happens with, as an example, where they are now. They are not the elite team that they were. They are not, I don't think, in many conversations, as being able to win the NBA
Right,
championship this
right,
year, and it does not matter a bit to me, not one drop. Um, I love the journey with them. So
right.
I won't. It's not that I would never root for another team, um, but my thing about basketball is I like it in my hands. So yes, I have a favorite team. Yes, Steph is my favorite player, but I still like to go out on the court and shoot,
Oh, nice.
and work on ball handling, and every once in a while, um, not as often as I did, and I say that for my management and people who love me.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't, I'm not trying to be crazy, but if it looks like a really, really sane pickup game, or if it's with a bunch of little kids and I'm the tallest one there, then I'm in.
That's the best kind.
and I tear it up. Okay.
Yes, yes. um, Back to the theater a little bit though. Are you in a troupe now? Are you doing any
Right now,
acting now? Hmm.
there's only one thing on my bucket list. I'm involved in a couple of films coming up, but um, right now there's one thing on my bucket list, and that's a one-man show on James Baldwin that I have been working on for years, and that is not
Ooh.
exaggeration, for years, and it's getting close, and
Oh,
that's all
very
I
exciting.
that's all I want to do. So um, when that happens, I'm sure you will hear, as I will be screaming it from rooftops and hoping to do it because James Baldwin, another library nerd,
Yes,
has been in my life since I was 13, and discovered him in on the shelves in the library, first library I worked in, the Franklin Library in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And his his novels to me are really, really beautiful. And he's a very wise individual.
absolutely.
He was an activist and a spokesperson for so many things, a brilliant essayist, a
Yes,
witness to what was taking place in his time as he believed all artists must be. And he was all about love. Love was
absolutely.
the most important thing to him. Love was the connective tissue. Love was also this elusive kind of evanescence that you couldn't always grab onto, or at least he couldn't. And there are many ways in which he never found the love of his life in a way that he could settle and accept, but
Right.
he generated and was surrounded by love, and he acknowledged its how how vital it was for existence and survival. And I want to, yeah, I want to stand inside that again. So I did an iteration of it, it was 5 or 6 years ago now, and then I tore it apart, and I've been rewriting it since that time,
Oh,
and I'm getting close.
and if you can talk about it, w- what would that look like for audiences? Would it be a traveling show, or would we have to go to a particular, like, what would that look like for us to attend and see it?
Um, I would just start doing it. I don't know, New York or San Francisco or Los Angeles, and then I would go as many places as I could with it. Things being
Okay.
what they are, maybe I would put it on some, have it videoed so that people could share it in that way. But I don't, that's down the road for me in terms of my
Yeah.
thinking. I just, what I see is myself in a big old theater or a little tiny theater with
Yeah.
an audience of any size, and sharing the story and the ideas and the life and the love of this man, James Baldwin. Because he's known so much for, oh, he was prescient, and oh, he says things that are now quotable. I think he's probably one of the most quoted individuals, but
Absolutely.
much of this happened after he passed away. And
Right.
he had a quite successful, quite amazing career in the world, but he was not as recognized and celebrated in his own country. And that was a part of Um, I think that was a statement in itself.
Right, right,
That his life became a statement of the distance between what the republic aspires to be when it's operating at its best, and what it falls to when it forgets or decides that it no longer cares about ideals. And
right. And that message that you are willing to carry is so needed even right now as we speak. So absolutely, when you're ready to talk about it, let's get back together. Let's bring it on. Let's have audiences ready to buy those tickets because we are ready. We are starved for that love and that truth. So I'm excited and we are all patiently waiting
well,
for that. That's great news.
I'm I'm uh, I'm no longer patient, and I'm not waiting. I'm just chugging away at it, and it will happen.
But last but not least, before we go, back to Isaiah Bradley, because we're gonna do a full circle. Do you
Okay.
have a copy of that graphic novel?
Yes,
I'm
I
just
do.
curious.
Does the sun rise
Okay.
from the east, angel? Yes. um, and and my son, who is all over this this comic world, he was the one who, without knowing the name of the character, said, I have a feeling that's Isaiah," because when I auditioned, as I said, he had a different
Hmm.
name. And so he said, "You need to get on this, Bob. You need to do your due diligence on this one because this is a big one." And that's when I began to find out about his the history of the character, let alone the history that the character represents.
Okay. It has been my absolute honor and pleasure to have you on. You are always welcome back at any time, any announcements. Um, for us here at Black Comic Lords, we consider each and every one of us that we share information with and teach about as family. So we consider you one of us, and I thank you so much for being with us here today. Now, was there anything else, any announcements, any secrets? Because we love secrets.
Oh,
Anything that you want to share with our audience today?
um, um, well, I guess what I would like to share is that we're all seeing things that it's hard to believe in many ways. But I also know,
Yes.
being the age that I am, that I've seen worse,
Yeah.
and I've seen worse around the world, and I've seen things go to a point where it looks like they can't come back,
Right.
and they
Right.
do. They do. If as long as people make a decision, they do come back. As long as people maintain not simply hope, but I think love, and the love that generates hope and generates inspiration and that connects so that we're not alone. That's what I believe is still percolating. And yeah, there's a lot there's a lot to be done, but that's what I believe we do. Humans, that's what I believe we do.
I agree 1,000%. As long as we don't let go of the work that needs to be done, as long as we are always willing for each one to teach one, and lead with kindness and love, there's always a path forward to better. So I agree 1,000%. We are definitely akin on that. So
Cool.
and I want to thank everybody for joining us today,
Yes, thank
and
you
I
very much, and thank you
appreciate.
for having me, Angel. I've enjoyed this quite a bit, and to all the I don't know if do you call yourselves nerds?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
Okay,
nerd.
so
I'm yes.
to all us nerds, we're with you. Take care.
All right, guys. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.